What's going on, everyone? Vampyr Gaming here, and today I just kind of want to talk about, it's really interesting overall. Today's video is obviously titled My 10 Most Underrated One Piece Cards, and I think there's a lot of merit to it, right? So one thing to remember is One Piece is really a player-driven game, and most card values come from just playability value. When we see spikes in cards, it's almost always playability. And there are very few exceptions to this, which is incredibly healthy for the game. And it's incredibly early for the TCG as a whole. And if you're new to the channel, if you could just hit subscribe right here. I'm on the road to 10,000. I want to hit 10,000 this month. So if you could do me a favor, hit that, and then if you're going to pick up any singles right here in this YouTube video description, you'll see this link to TCGPlayer. It'll take you out to where you can shop TCG singles. If you're going to pick up anything in this video, if you could do that, do me that favor, click that. It'll help me out a ton, and hit that subscribe button, and let's get back to it. So yeah, the game is incredibly early. So we don't really have like an established market, and I have some other videos coming soon as well later down the pipeline where I want to talk about some other things where you just might be overpaying for cards overall. But there isn't a lot of collectibility, and we kind of see a slight switch with that with the recent, in my opinion, overhype of Dodger Luffy. And there's already 1,000 graded with PSA, and I'm so sure by the end of this year we're going to see 10,000. Mine are still there. I'm so sure we're just going to see over 10,000 copies of that card graded. And a lot of people are like tossing around like print numbers, and then there's going to end up being like counterfeits, and I think that's going to be like a big start of something new. That aside, One Piece is incredibly early in terms of TCGs, but it has one of the most well-known IPs out there. The Savannah Bananas, they do One Piece celebrations, right? Like, it's a part of culture. We've seen One Piece in so many things, and we see again, the Dodger collab. Like, One Piece is everywhere, and anime is just continually on the rise in just world and global acceptability, right? There's so many of us who were like, made fun of in high school for liking anime. Now everybody literally just watches it. And people are seeing the live action and continue, season 2 is coming. And so just inherent IP, there's a lot of value there. And then, of course, there's value in, like, the TCG thriving as well. If we have 10, 20 years of OPTCG, what do these cards look like? So it's really interesting because before, like, they've printed a lot of cards, and Bandai has essentially been like, we're not afraid to reprint things outside of EB01. They didn't want to reprint EB01, but they did reprint the cards themselves. And in most instances, half the time, these reprints are just indistinguishable. So it's quite unique, the total approach to the game. But there were some cards with, like, niche differences and whatnot, depending on how old they were. But it creates a unique opportunity, right, in what can actually be worth anything. And so this card, so we're going to talk about just cards that I think are just the most, quote, like, underrated, not necessarily, like, undervalued, because I'm not one to decide a card's value, but I know that I've paid more than $77 for a copy of this. And I mean, like, you can see here, it's like 100. So this card's fresh off like the bottom of its price. You see a 77, then like 90, and it quickly goes up. But we're going to first start off with the super pre-release starter deck Luffy. These events were in 2022, before the card game came out in December. And the only exposure people had to the game, I picked up a couple for, like, the sole purpose of playing. And then, of course, like, Luffy just makes sense. I have a sealed deck, and arguably the sealed deck is also really good. You look at mini TCGs, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, like, the best reference. I know Pokemon sealed decks have some value, but I think they might even be, like, adequately priced, because the sealed version of this deck, let's see if we can just see it here. Supplies, no, supplies never works. I don't know what's wrong with this, but yeah, we see here 180 180. What is like the oldest Pokemon deck? Right? Like, let's go through this journey together. You take a look. We see, like, you think the very first ones. I'm trying to think of what one it was. The one with the Machamp. So, yeah, I mean, you look at base set, revised reprint. These are $300. So we just kind of got that benchmark there. And I know some of the other ones. Yeah, see, Jungle, that's what. Jungle. Oh, they're just the things. So like Gym Challengers, I guess, is the one. But these are like $180. And these were printed into oblivion. The first sets of Pokemon were printed very heavily. And like arguably like some of the most printed sets of all time. And it makes sense, right? You're starting an IP. You're building a brand. It was a different time. You wanted it everywhere. These were not that. And you look at like first edition Yu-Gi-Oh decks, and they are quite valuable at this point. They weren't for a very long time. They were actually incredibly affordable. Like, I want to say $600-$700 for an incredibly long time. Then the first edition Blue Eyes kind of became a lot of money. These were incredibly limited because not many LGS or local game stores at the time opted to pick them up, opted to, sign up for Bandai. We're not in the TCG madness that we're in now that was kind of springboarded by the One Piece. I literally bought, blue bottoms for slightly over MSRP because I just pre-ordered them online in like August. Now, we look at Riftbound, it's sold out today, like, second it went live. And you see all these other things. This was before any of the madness. And so many people, because this leader isn't really playable in terms of game state, it's just not a great leader. It begs, no, some people don't even know this card exists. And I think it's like the number one. I think I have a couple of these in like a PSA 10, and that's literally just for the fact of it. But that's a conversation for another time. And I literally like paid the price of Raw for like a PSA 10. So, yeah. But it was like more than this. So, this is a great price overall. And again, every store that held an event got one box, one case, and it had 4 decks of each. And so there were 16-man events. But there was only one near me. And now, of course, there's like multiple gaming stores that have the other ones. And the last one Bandai did was Dragon Ball, well, you guys call it Masters, and Masters didn't perform well near the end, right? So like, there's a little bit of hesitation to pick up One Piece, even though it is like, the most iconic IP. And I'm sure there was like other things as well with like distribution and whatnot in terms of what you could get. But it was very hard for a store to host this super pre-release, and you can just, even some quick searches, you'll see a lot of people had trouble finding these events near them just because they didn't exist. And so there's only, at every one of these events, there's only 4 of these, essentially. Unless, I think there might have been some that got like megas and got like 32 because there were just like some more valued stores. In the same instances that some of your stores can have more. But my local store had 16. And they were like, had open registration until like the day of. So they didn't fill up fast. And people played with these as well. So you had to use these in the event to try to win a card worth even more. So the argument, right, everybody opened these up to play. Unless, like, Kid was the better deck. Kid was the best deck. Overall, Kid and Kaido, I believe, were dominant of that format. So you could just take your Luffy home and, take that W because it's worth grossly more than the other decks. And some people did that. And some people also, of course, cracked it open, played with it. So there's a lot of played ones since the game format demanded for it. And so there's just a lot of interesting things around it, right? Like, and so at near mint, $77, I think this card is incredibly underrated. I think this card is just underrated across the board because of just the scenarios, the amount of stores. You look at the prize for it, it's like $1,000, and it's a Luffy, so this can never be that. But like sealed deck, I think is top shelf, but this is also just it is the card that brings it the value. Next up, we have this Wanted poster Luffy. So I actually wasn't going to mention this, but the other Wanted Luffy, which is Gear 5, which has iconic value, just got bought out. And I think this one's better. I think, like, Gear 5 Luffy in the long term isn't going to be as iconic as, like, you think Straw Hat Luffy, the big smile, and just everything about it. I think everything. I do like the card. I think it looks incredibly cool, but I think this is the cooler one. And not just because I only own one of these. I do only own one of these. I don't own the other one. But I think this one's just better. And I think the OPO3 set, so for those unfamiliar with the One Piece card game, they introduced block rotation, and it's coming into effect next year. This is block 1, and so is Pillars of Strength, which is a booster box. The third set, and they're about $240. And so what was interesting, though, is for the longest, we could buy almost every single booster set printed at Bandai Card Fest. And the last one that I was at, well, I guess second to last one, was Nationals in Dallas. It was the finals. I don't think it was technically a Bandai Card Fest. But I bought OPO1. I bought 6 OPO1 boxes the last day, and I bought an OPO3 box. And then OPO1 is like OPO1, but you could buy it. They introduced block rotation, so those sets are going to rotate out, and they kind of have been showing that with the restocks at the Bandai stores, having less and less, like, you're not seeing OPO1 anymore, and you're, like, kind of seeing, like, I think OPO2 blisters versus the booster boxes, and a little bit more things in that area, and the rotation sets them up to not have to print those sets anymore, because those cards are no longer playable. And if a card is going to be playable, they are going to reprint it in a new block number. So these should just completely exit print forever if they haven't already. And nobody's going to open older sealed product because it's just not worth it. OPO3 might have been the first set that they started doing 3 hit boxes. OPO1 and OPO2 only had 2 hit boxes, which were just incredible L's to hold. And I believe they switched up because I believe they originally just did Japan ratios and doubled them, but then they gave us a little bit more. But like, you can buy this, or you can buy 3 of these for the price of a booster box, essentially. Kinda. You can buy 3 of these for the price of a booster box. And I think just all that rotation and the set actually going out of print, whereas OPO9 is still in print, and they were giving it out for prizing. And we're going to see it at many Bandai Card Fests in the future, I'm sure. And this year, I just don't think that is going to happen. So that's why I think that this card is underrated. Now, let's talk about this. So I've heard numbers, and I believe there's only 10,000 of these. There's only 10,000 of these. I will say there was a metric ton of people both days, and they gave out an insane amount of promos. If people lined up for the regional wait list, they got an extra promo. Like, I know some people who just organically got like 5 promo packs for free. They're at the event. So incredibly weird, but I think this card is very cool just in what it shows. And the underrated part about this card is just the art and the meaning behind it. So you have Luffy with all 5 gears. Assuming we don't see a gear 6, I think this card is incredibly iconic. This card is terrible in terms of playability. It's one of the most, in my opinion, unplayable red cards that they've made. Some might disagree. With that in mind, though, this card is incredibly cool. They have a Japanese version as well that they gave out. So it's not like an English exclusive or anything like that, but English is usually king when it comes to trading card games. Had a similar release, but there was a ton of these packs. I know judges got to bring home a bunch as well, as they should. They deserve it. But yeah, there's a ton of these goodie bags and even more of these promos at the event. But this card is just iconic for what it is. And I think in the grand scheme of things, you look at Pokemon promos. There are some promos that are just absurd. in value, and there's some that are just like absolutely worthless. I think like this is like Charizard if it had every Charizard on it. That's this equivalent. And it has a cool event behind it. It was slightly geo-locked. It's not like a promo in a set that was like sold massively. You look at Pokemon Center, ETB promos. Like One Piece doesn't even scratch the surface in terms of collectibility because we're player games. And so, and I think it stays that way for many, 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 many years. And I pray it stays that way for many, 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 many. Oh wait, that's Eminem. No, 50 Cent. Many years. With that in mind, though, I think this card is very cool. I have one of these in my binder. I picked one up for a friend of mine in just a random trade that day. And it's great. I think it's very cool. I think it's a great card to have. Like if I had to buy One Piece card, I think that there's a couple other in here. And if I had $100 and I had to buy One Piece card, it would be this. It would be this. No questions asked. Now, let's talk about another one. So, this is again one of those earlier promos. And it's a mix of playability. So, this card actually just shocks me to my core. I paid $200 for one of these. I paid like $200 for one of these. Something like that. Way up here. And now it's at $60. It has a lot of variations, and the Bandai card stores had a lot of these sealed battle events. There were not a lot of stores that had these sealed battle events, but there were, and there's only one per event, and there weren't a lot of LGSs, but there were a lot of these at the actual official card shops, and I think that contributed to the price overall. Because they continued to run these long after stores didn't, to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I remember seeing them in the Bandai app, and I continually kept seeing them on the Bandai app. It's about 2 years old now, right? But I remember seeing these on the Bandai app for the stores, official store, and so they kept having these for months and months and months, is my understanding, at their stores. And you could win one of these. And I think that heavily influenced this that we see now. But at $60, I mean, I just want to buy a playset. I think one is incredibly cool. You see, it's an Ace Sabo Luffy card. There's really cool Ace here and Luffy here. And so this is one of my personal favorite cards. I think this card is incredibly underrated. Because you had to get it, you had to win a 6-pack battle, I think. Where you drafted a deck with 6 OPO, I want to say OPO 5, but it might have been OPO 6. But I remember the guy, maybe I'm thinking of another instance, because I lost in the finals for 3 of these or something. I've lost in the finals a lot. And so incredibly interesting how that all shaped out. So that I had to buy one. And, it's just gone down. There's no demand for it. But in terms of playability aspect, this card is a manga. Okay, Sabo is a manga. This card will be playable till infinity, till OP 420. At least you can play this card. So this card has the playability. It is not the max rarity, and there are a lot of printings and variations of this card. And I think that's where this card is kind of overlooked, and why it's underrated is because you have the 2nd anniversary, you have the regular alternate art that's a manga, you have the manga, you have the reprint manga. There's so many variations, and the manga overall is cheap. So this card, of course, has to be cheap, and it's not played currently. Sabo is not having an opportunity to shine, but I think this is one of the best looking cards in print that they've ever done, because you see them, they sparkle in the fire, it hits you in the feels. If you know, you know. So I really love this card. Now let's talk about this. 1st anniversary tournament. This is OP05. This card has done nothing but go down. The card was actually quite expensive at one point, $200. I think I paid at $150 or something for one of these. That's cool. I'm not, I'm cool with that. I think at $80, it is a great buy. Again, you're going to see a lot of Monkey D. Luffy's, but he's literally our Charizard, okay? He is our Blue Eyes White Dragon. Actually, I think Ace is the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Values will say he's the Blue Eyes White Dragon, but I think Ace is our Blue Eyes White Dragon. I think this is our Dark Magician. But, like, that aside, you had the win. This was also a sealed event. You had the drafted deck. It was essentially our pre-release, but it was this. And you look at the first pre-release, that was Luffy, grand. And you look at this is $80. And this is first anniversary. There were, of course, way more. But it is Gear 5. So, again, how much do you value Gear 5? A lot of people think Gear 5 wanted poster is worth more, but then we look at this guy and they're just undervaluing it. It is a completely unplayable card. Same thing for the super pre-release winner, completely unplayable card. But it's Gear 5. It has like unique foiling. It is not textured, but it does have a nice hot stamp right there. I did get one graded. It got like a 9.5, which made me sad. But again, like, these are kind of like niche cards a lot of people might not even know exist, because if you were there for OPO5, you know this card. But if not, a lot of people are coming on later, and a lot of people are coming on later. They didn't know that you had to win this. You couldn't even pull it. But there's a lot of prize cards overall in One Piece, and so I think that kind of saturates their value. Everybody wants to sell them, break even, make money. But I think, you know, you're looking 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line. People kind of forget about this. People start wanting it. Something crazy happens with Gear 5. Who knows? And people just start kind of wanting it. I'm not, you know, I think Iconic Luffy is better than Gear 5 Luffy. I'll stand by that. I think Iconic Look Luffy performs better than Gear 5 Luffy in the long term. But it's a very cool promo card. My friend asked me, he's like, oh, they're like 140. Think I should buy some? I was like, actually, no. I was like, did I buy one? Yes, because I didn't win one, and I wanted to own one. And at one point, I think it went up to like $300. Again, this is over 1 year old. We're coming up on the 3rd anniversary. This was the 1st anniversary. And then, of course, you know, when we're on the 420th anniversary, people are going to want the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and so on. So I think this card's a little underrated, underappreciated. Now let's talk about PRB. So I actually, funny enough, I made a big purchase and I actually sold one of these. I sold it quite cheap, and now they've just gone up astronomically since PRB 02 confirmed that they will not have mangas in the set and they're just doing a regular God pack. That makes this potentially the only One Piece set to have the greatest pack of all time in it. The only way to pull a manga God pack will be forever in this set. And I think it shows. Like you see here, it was like kind of like June. People kind of start wondering. I sold mine like right here, I think like $250, and now we have $367 as the cheapest, and people are buying them. There are sales, and so I think, like, you know, everybody talks Blue Bottom, everybody talks EBO1. And EBO1, right, like half the value just got reprinted. The value was the playable cards inside with the 7 super rares that half of them were worth $40 a piece. So you have such odds of just going break even with potential for plus. And you are guaranteed 3 hits every box. 3 hits every box. This is a set that is entirely reprinted, but it's all fan service. It's got chase cards. And it's got mangas. And it's got Nami. It's got everything. It's got everything. And so I think long term, honestly, I almost like this more than I like this more than I like regular OPO1. I almost like it more than I like Blue Bottom. Again, completely my opinion. None of this is financial advice. But if you want to pick up some of these, use the link down in the YouTube video description. Or I'll even put it in the comments. Just click it. If you make a purchase, great. If not, no biggie. Now, let's talk about this. I think this is just the most underrated card in the whole game. And a lot of people are like, stop saying that. Well, this card was literally several grand. This card was literally several grand, and it's just gone down. And it's finally trying to go back up. Like, you see how rare this card sells? Somebody, like, I can't pump this card. Even if I wanted to. One sale like a month. It says 4 sales in a quarter. It's an expensive card. This is a player's game. This is a player's game. We don't really have a collectible market. All our expensive alt arts are playable alt arts. Our non-playable prize card alts are worth a lot less than our playable prize card alts. So, everybody talked about Dodger's Luffy, okay? Let me just, if you're not familiar, Dodger Luffy, let's talk about it. A lot of people tried to really hype up this card. Now, granted, this is sports cards meets One Piece meets trading cards. It is the ultimate card. Dodgers has demand in Asia, globally. Was available in the US. Glad I went to this event. If I sold you one of these or offered you one, just remember that was big love. That was big love. If you're for some reason watching this video, the couple people that I helped out, that was big love. I wish I'd bought more. I wish I'd bought more. Anyways, yeah, so that's the Dodger Luffy. Everybody was like, oh, Oda made it. It's exclusively for the card. Well, like, I didn't love that. I didn't love that. Because, I mean, like, it was obviously for the collaboration. It was made for the collaboration and it ended up on a trading card. He didn't make that design thinking, they're like, hey, we're going to make a trading card for this event. Like, that 100%, I just, like, my gizzard tells me that wasn't the brief. It's, hey, we're doing this collaboration with the Dodgers with Level Luffy. And he drew a Dodgers, Luffy in the shape of Dodgers, right? Like, that was the original one, and then he changed it, and then they made Shoei Dodger-shaped Luffy. And it was great, and the event was great. But the card was, like, guilty by association, in my opinion. There was nothing factual that said Oda drew this for the card. They drew it for the collaboration with the Dodgers. And that's what we have. This card right here was drawn by Oda with the sole intent of it existing within this card game. And I think the smaller version of this is even better. Like, I stand by, the card is incredibly, that is the most undervalued. But I think this is just incredibly underappreciated. Again, OPO5 was almost 2 years ago. A lot of people don't even know this card exists. I think if I was to own one, if I could only own One Piece card of all time, it would be this. I pulled this on Christmas. My mother bought me one box, and this was the first pack that I opened. And it's funny because whenever you open it, you kind of have a buffering moment because there's another version of this card. There's another version of this card here. Let's go take a look. This video ended up being infinity longer than I'd hoped for it to be. Look, this card is $6. Same card, same art, drawn exclusively, confirmed drawn exclusively for the One Piece card game. He did not do that for the second anniversary. Did not do that for the second anniversary. First anniversary, exclusively drawn by Oda for the purpose of this TCG. With that top of mind. With that in the brief. This card exists by Oda's hand for this card. And this card is phenomenal. This one has his signature on it. It's not actually signed, it's stamped. But it's incredibly cool. And the closest thing we might ever get to like an Oda signature. Incredibly cool. Now let's look at second anniversary. This card is $3,000. Again, this is block 1. This is the end of block, so this is block 2. OPO5 is block 2. This card is block 1. So it's going to lose any playability value. This is a very playable card. It's going to lose any playability value. But this card is OPO5 was the start of block 2. It'll eventually go out of print. They'll probably have OPO5 and OPO9 at the next Bandai Card Fest for you to buy. That's just kind of how that works. But we look at this. This card is $3,000. You know what Roger's done? He died. That's what Roger's done. Luffy's alive. Roger's dead. Done nothing. He lied. Like, see this? It's the most iconic thing he did. Everything he did, every panel that this man has been in is right here, I'm so sure. Because that's how many panels he's been. This guy's been in all of them. This guy was drawn by Oda. This guy's just gold. And I watched everybody pull him. I don't know. I think this card's incredibly overvalued. I think it's incredibly undervalued. And that's why I thank you. Now, this. BVB Luffy. I think this card's incredibly undervalued. You look at Dodgers Luffy. We already looked at Dodgers Luffy, 650. This was, again, not as popular overall, but soccer/football, however you want to say it, is an incredibly popular sport. And BVB Dortmund is one of the most renowned soccer clubs out there overall, bar for bar. Again, no, he's not Shohei. They don't have a Shohei. They don't have a Messi. They don't have any, they don't have any of that. But it was the first one. And I think it kind of has to move with Dodgers Luffy, right? Like Dodgers Luffy's gone up, and these have actually, I bought these for $50 US. I was buying these for $50 US. It is no longer $50 US, and it is about 140-ish, I believe, if you were to get one now from Europe. They've continually gone up. I think they're just a little over like 110, 120 euros, which comes out to like 140 US. And you kind of have to like import, but if you import a mass of them, you can get down to like $1 a card. So it doesn't really impact it. But people were importing them for like $50, selling them here, 150, 200, making a bag. I could have did that, but like I wanted 10 for me. I wanted other people to have their opportunity. I didn't want to take too many out of Europe. A lot of people taking them out of Europe. They've continued, like, whenever they sell for a lot here, they have to meet in the middle because everybody's buying them up while they can still make money here. And then, of course, they did a big spike, right? You see a big spike right here. This is around the time Dodgers Luffy kind of started getting hyped, and a lot of people were getting more eyes. I think it's a very great card because there's recognition and there's two fan bases that are here. And it's way cheaper than Dodgers Luffy. I would buy 3 of these before I buy one Dodgers Luffy. That's me, not financial advice. That's my thoughts at this point. But I think this card is incredibly underrated. And then we go here. So again, Luffy's our Charizard, right? But there's a lot of prize cards. I'm going to echo that this whole video through. There are a lot of prize cards. And a lot of them are Luffy. This is actually, so this card has come down quite a bit. I was looking for like cards, and I'm like, okay, because I debated on selling mine like right around here for $300, because I got mine maybe 150. It's about 170, but like they don't sell a lot. But this card, it's funny because the Japan equivalent was incredibly expensive, but they continually ran this event in Japan, and now they're about $30. So you can buy this art and own it on a card for like $20-30. Incredibly cheap. This one is very cool. It was a store championship. It was very early on. They adjusted these store championships, and the second time around, I want to say it was Eustace Captain Mid, and when they did that, they made it more than one prize card. They gave you more than one prize card. When this was happening, it was all or nothing. Winner, one prize card. And it's Luffy. And it was held incredibly early on because it's this terrible Luffy promo. And again, you see it was $300. It's come down a lot. Attention is the number one asset in this game. Not a lot of these available, but you see like some stores have like 8, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So I believe this is one of the most underrated ones. It's a very cool art. Again, it was so early. I think a lot of people don't even know this card exists at this point. But again, it's a prize card, so it's got exclusivity. It's Monkey D. Luffy, so it's got Monkey D. Luffy. And it's good art. It's good art. It has a good foil. It's stamped. I think it's underrated. Now, my last card, switching up again. Ace Sabo Luffy is the name of the brand. That's the big push. I think Manga Ace. So the first manga ever was Shanks, which is cool, but I think at the end of the day, and it's funny because, right, Aces cannot have any legacy, no matter what. If you know, you know. Whereas Shanks can continue to build legacy and brand within the show. But Ace lived longer because every fan loved him. And so Oda was going to do what he did right away. But then everybody loved him, so he kind of like prolonged it a lot. And like kicked the can down the road 2 years or something. Is I believe what he said in an interview. And then like his editor, when he found out, he was like, say it ain't so. No way. Like, I think Ace is one of the most iconic characters, and I think it's one of the earlier mangas. in the thing. And I love Ace. I love Ace, okay? I love Ace. But to me, again, this is just my cards that are underrated. I think Shanks will have less legacy than like just overall Ace's impact on just a story, character growth, everything. So I think this is the better manga overall. But OPO1, you know, there's OPO1, but this is as close as you can get, right? It's OPO2, but it has iconic, and it looks so good. So that's it. But if you found this content valuable, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I make competitive One Piece content, all kinds of things for you to consume and enjoy if you're interested in playing the OPTCG. And thank you all so much. I'll see you in the next one.